the video of Karmelo's Anthony and Austin Metcalf's incident is going to be released to the public. Nobody had really been advocating for the Karmelo Anthony family. There are a lot of details that are going to prove this kid is innocent all the way around. He gonna be all right. So man, so I used to partner and work with a criminal defense mitigation specialist, and by this criminal defense mitigation specialist coming in, she has the ability and the power to interview both sides. And what the adults are overlooking, and what I find so ironic, you can't find no children nowhere speaking about it. You know why? They have been prohibited to speak, and they're silenced. Because if they speak, this kid case is dropped tomorrow. So we had to bring in some very important people, highly respected in Collin County. Man, he needs some people that's from there, that know there. So man. So I had to, because he's on house arrest. I got one of the best boxing programs in Fort Worth. And Fort Worth is known as boxing. Shout out to Trent Road. So I went and got one of the best boxing programs that I pay weekly to go out there 2 times a week so he can train, self-defense training, get this out your head. And he's studying law. So I sent him books. I gave him the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, which talks about the situation he in, school to prison pipeline. He's trapped in it. So I gave him this book to read. He told him another book to read. One of my mentors, Dr. Miles Monroe, Understanding the Power and Purpose of a Man That Puts You to the Start Line, Young Brother. And he's so receptive. So nah, man. Nah, man. I had he's they trying to pull me back into this. But I'm saying, man, just let me keep playing funny, man.
Charleston White, that self-styled sentinel of law and order, doth take to YouTube, his platform of 1.2 million subscribers, to proclaim a defense of Karmelo Anthony, an 18-year-old black teen indicted for the April 2, 2025 for the death of Austin Metcalf, a white 17-year-old at Frisco's Kuykendall Stadium. The incident, a flashpoint that hath sparked national attention, saw Anthony, a Frisco Centennial student, charged with first-degree unaliving after a dispute under a rival team's tent escalated to tragedy. White, once a vocal critic who decried Anthony's actions as a one-way ticket to the penitentiary, now stands as his defender, citing unseen details in forthcoming surveillance footage, the wisdom of a criminal defense mitigation specialist, and the silencing of child witnesses. For this is no mere legal gambit, but a clarion call against the systemic scourge of racial bias, a pestilence that doth haunt the American justice system like a specter in a server farm. White's defense, delivered with the fervor of a street preacher and the audacity of a stand-up comic, shocks his conservative base, accustomed to his rants against thugs and crash-outs. His pivot, championing Anthony's right to a fair trial, funding boxing classes to teach self-defense, sending books like The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, unveils a deeper truth. The system, from Frisco ISD to Collin County's courts, is a labyrinth designed to ensnare black youth like Anthony, a 3.7 GPA student facing expulsion and a life sentence. Schumpert, rooted in Chicago's pragmatic progressivism, sees the irony. White, a man who once railed against black criminality, now stands as a bulwark against the same system he upheld, a progressive paradox that challenges the narrative of guilt. The liberal heart aches for Anthony, a teen whose self-defense claim is drowned by a cacophony of racist attacks, death threats, and doxing, as reported by CBS Texas and ABC News. This is a call for redemption, a demand that justice be blind, not biased, in a world where black boys are convicted in the court of public opinion before a jury is even seated. He spoke, yes, and he did so not with the moderation of a British news anchor, but with the unfiltered candor of an uncle too drunk at Thanksgiving and too old to care about cancel culture. In his gravel-rubbed cadence, he gesticulated toward what he believed to be the unseen hand of justice, pointing out, and I paraphrase from memory's rusting ledger, that the children involved were rendered voiceless not due to irrelevance but systematic prohibition. Because if they speak, he lamented like Jeremiah in the wilderness of false narratives, this kid cases throughout tomorrow. Let that grammatical entanglement ferment in your mental gourd. What he attempted to pontificate, albeit in the tongue of one touched by both divine inspiration and mild neurological misfiring, was that there existed a socio-judicial manipulation, a Kafkaesque conspiracy, wherein youth are silenced by structural forces more opaque than a corrupt priest's tax records. And yet, herein lies the rub of cognitive dissonance that seized his conservative acolytes by the frontal lobe and commenced a philosophical exorcism with no holy water in sight. For these were the very same individuals who previously venerated Charleston as their parochial prophet. A latter-day Simeon, stylites perched atop the ideological pillar of self-responsibility and ethnocentric correction. And yet here he stood, metaphorically, rhetorically, perhaps even spiritually, standing beside Karmelo, a man whose resume includes Olympic gold, NBA All-Star nods, and the general aura of someone who would not move out of the paint even if the building was on fire. Charleston, in a moment of Homeric proportion, declared Karmelo innocent by association. Association with divinity, perhaps, or at least with the new Jim Crow as articulated by one Michelle Alexander, whom he referenced as if she were his spiritual GPS in this dark terrain of juvenile adjudication. My cerebellum nearly did a backflip when I heard he had sent this child the aforementioned tome. Yes, the new Jim Crow, a book less frequently read by conservative audiences than satanic verses at a Bible camp. That Charleston would reach for this particular intellectual cudgel was tantamount to a vegan trying to convert a Texas barbecue committee with tofu brisket. And yet he pressed on, dare I say, galloped through this epistemological minefield, declaring the child ensnared in a school-to-prison pipeline. A phrase which alone is enough to send suburban fathers into cardiac spasms of Tucker Carlsonian rage. But Charleston would not relent. He spoke, too, of self-defense training, of understanding the purpose of a man via Dr. Miles Monroe, and I dare say in that moment he was no longer merely a YouTuber with a criminal record and a penchant for verbal blitzkrieg. He was a griot channeling the ancestral wisdom of Jala-fueled philosophers past. Oh, let us address the elephant in the chat room, the conservative base. Ah yes, those who viewed Charleston as a vocal guillotine against degeneracy. They gathered, twitching with expectation, only to find their messiah doing political salsa with a man they once deemed the poster child for NBA entitlement and social overreach. Their minds combusted like expired Roman candles, their outrage stuttering under the weight of the betrayal. They had built an ideological shrine around Charleston, erected on the pillars of personal accountability, criminal deterrence, and aggressive barbershop theology, only to find their high priest break the fourth wall and hand out leftist literature like a radical librarian at a Pentecostal youth retreat. And what was his message, ultimately? That beneath every accusation lies a context. That even Karmelo, that jump-shotting, headband-rocking Olympic hero turned meme, could become the symbolic stand-in for a child in crisis. That perhaps, just perhaps, the legal and moral system is not always calibrated for truth, but for convenience. That the voiceless may not be silent, but silenced. This was not an argument. It was an implosion. A singularity of ideological matter so dense that not even Candace Owens could escape its gravitational pull. And in defending Karmelo, Charleston White, our unwashed, unfiltered, uncorked scribe of street pulpit exegesis, became something more than a caricature. He became a paradox. The man whose brand had been built on scolding the culture for its collective foolishness now stood beside the very kind of story his base had been trained to dismiss. It was cognitive whiplash, a philosophical sneeze with no tissue in sight. And yet, it was riveting, because if nothing else, Charleston White remains consistent in one thing: his inconsistency. His ideological compass spins like a DJ scratching records on a sinking cruise ship. But amid that chaos, sometimes, just sometimes, a note rings true. And when it does, even Karmelo Anthony, the misunderstood silhouette of hardwood past, gets to stand, if briefly, in the spotlight of bizarre absolution. And so, I close this soliloquy, not with a conclusion but a caution. Beware the men who speak in riddles.